It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire, and our mission really to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you will call to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Amy, and yeah, she's here to talk about going from fear to fearless, but also about how you can really use authentic leadership to really get the results you're looking for, not only in your organization, but in your business, but I dare say your life. We'll figure that out in a minute. What's going on, Amy? How you doing?
Hey, Shay. So good to see you again. Thanks for having me. Doing great.
Good. Well, it's an honor and a privilege to see you once again. Some people I never get a chance to meet in person. I will say I did have a chance to sit down with you and break bread, by the way. So that's always pretty cool. So thanks for being here. And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in. Without you, we don't have a show, by the way. So you have a lot of choices. We really appreciate you being here with us. Amy, take a moment. We'll talk about how famous you are. Folks can go read your bio. Folks may have already Googled you, but they're probably looking and saying, what is this fear to fearless and what is authentic leadership? I guess my question to you before we get started is really authentic leadership. Number one, what's your definition of leadership these days? That's number one.
Yeah, so leadership is more than a title. A lot of times people think of, leaders in businesses or organizations or even communities as people who have an official title. I actually believe that's not true. I believe a leader is somebody who willingly helps empower people so that they want to follow them. You can be a boss, you can be a manager, and you have a title when you have those roles, but that doesn't necessarily make you a leader. So a leader can be anybody who others will willingly follow. And a lot of times I like to say that in order to be a really effective leader, you have to have all of your stuff cleaned up and you have to be able to lead your own life before people will want to lead you. And so before you can effectively lead others.
Well, it sounds really easy to me. I mean, I'm just curious. And I'm probably the only one who has this question, which is, Amy, in the times we live in, why do people struggle with being effective, great leaders? I mean, they have AI, right? They can go to AI and AI can probably say, here's exactly what you should do as a leader today. Here's how you should respond. They've got TikTok and Instagram and everything else. Yet inside of organizations, and I'm talking to you folks out there who work for companies or organizations or in government, why are leaders still struggling to be really effective leaders? What's holding them back?
You're right, Shay. There's tons of information out there and people can read it or they can not read it. We've been talking about emotional intelligence for the better part of 15, almost 20 years now, and we're still having to have those conversations. And I believe the same is true in leadership. One of the things that happens is people might have been top performers at their company. So they were the best of the best in their role. Maybe it was in sales, maybe it was in finance, maybe it was in computer programming, but whatever their role were, they were the best of the best. And that's how they were, promoted into a leadership or a management position. But the same tools that made them successful as a doer are not going to work anymore once they become a leader or a manager of an organization. And so a lot of times what happens is when they take those roles, they fail to continuously improve and to learn and to gather the tools and resources to help them be successful in this new stage of life, which is leadership.
I love how you said that. And I want to talk to two type of folks if we can. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I have forgot. I know you want to know who is this person talking, okay? I get it. Some of you are cooking dinner right now. Some of you might be at the gym listening to the podcast. And some of you are playing it in the background. I want to know who's talking. We'll get to her backstory in a moment. But if you can't talk to the person who's an entrepreneur, I mean, there's a lot of our folks who watch, they're dualpreneurs. They work a full-time job and they're a full-time entrepreneur. And they're finding themselves as a leader in an entrepreneur world where people don't directly report to them, but yet they're trying to get things done. For the person that's making that transition or is a leader now as an entrepreneur, is there 1, 2, or 3 things, suggestions you would give to them? Because maybe, like you said, they've been great at their profession, but now they got to lead people who don't really report directly to them.
Yeah, so the first thing is you got to make sure you have the right people. When I first stepped into an entrepreneurial role, I kind of trusted everybody. Like, anybody who came along who told me they could do something, I was like, all right, let's do it. And I was paying people left and right. Well, I quickly got burned doing that. And so now I have to vet people. Now, I'm a faith filled believer. And so I do a lot of prayer around that. But I do believe that you also have to do the work as well as pray. So I have to vet people, get testimonials from other, see what they're doing well, ask for, some of the work to see some of the work that they've done. And I think that's very important. But it's also understanding that, there's this term called scope creep. You've probably heard of it, right?
Okay.
And so,
Define it for us,
so
please, for those that haven't heard it.
yeah, so scope creep is, let's say that I've hired somebody to do a project and I actually want more done than what they agreed to. Well, I have to have boundaries around who's doing what for me, just like I have to have boundaries around what I'm doing for other people. So I bring that up because as entrepreneurs, it's important to know that people are going to ask you to do more than they pay you to do a lot of times. So that's also very important. So you have to make sure you have the right people who are doing work for you, but you also have to make sure that you have boundaries around the work you're doing for other people.
Well said, by the way. And can we now jump to the seasoned person on the other side? Some folks have been managers for a number of years. That they're picking up what you're putting down. By the way, they're smelling what you're cooking in the kitchen, if I can say it like that. And they're probably thinking, does Amy have any suggestions? And we're gonna get into fearless in a moment. We're gonna get into personal resilience, but you might be curious, man. Would Amy have any suggestions for me? Because I now have to train other leaders. And in my organization, I know about emotional intelligence. I read the books, but what's one or two ideas you have for developing folks? And specifically, maybe this is a Shay Brown question because, this is not a counseling session, but I'm curious. I had a hard time releasing things to other folks. Like, I was like, okay, they're not going to do as good as me, but I'm going to give it to them. And it took me a while, and I still struggle with that. So my question directly to you is, what do you say to the person that struggles to release some of the things they have as a leader so they can build other leaders within their organization? And maybe I'm alone. We'll figure it out.
That's one of the things that I have struggled with myself, Shay. So I completely get it. You have to understand what your best skill sets are and make sure that you're working within your own skill sets. And that means that, I'm the person who wants to do it all because I want it done the way I envision it. And I fear that other people can't do it. But if I do it all, if I try to do it all, I'll never be able to do the things that I do really well. So I have to be able to trust people and I have to be able to delegate the right things to those people. So think about what are your what is your skill set? What are people paying you for? Where can you make the most money? And what are you passionate about? Those are the things that you should be doing. And then everything else you're going to delegate to people. They're up to other people. There's all kinds of matrices out there, like the Eisenhower matrix and others like that you can look at that kind of give you a way to say, what are the most important tasks? What do I need to do now? What can I do later? And what can I delegate to other people? And I would say use those types of tools. But one of the things you asked was around training specifically. And I would say the exact same thing is true. So if you're going to train someone on technical skills and you have to be the one to train them, then by all means do it. And there's a specific process to technical training as well. But if you're having somebody, if you're wanting people within your organization trained on communication or interpersonal skills or delegation, conflict resolution, all of these types of things, time management, sales strategies, then you absolutely want to outsource that to another company or another organization.
Well said, by the way. And I think now's a good time just to slow down for a moment. I mean, you came out the gate firing away because I know some of you are like, hey, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to be fearless. We're going to find out what her definition of fearless is because I'm kind of curious. But first, they want to know, who are you, Amy? I know you're famous all over the world. I get it. But there's some people who are watching and they're getting to know you for the very first time. And they want to know, who in the LL Cool J is this woman talking right now? Because I like what I'm hearing. But who is she? So take a moment, if you would, and tell them your backstory. And then what was that defining moment that led you down this track of really helping organizations not become great leaders, not become better leaders, but actually reach an amazing, awesome level of leadership so they can get the results they want?
Sure. So I'm Amy Pechacek. I am a professional speaker and do leadership training, keynote speaking, and I've founded a company called Alpstra. It used to be called Alpstra Training Solutions, but we added some additional things to it, rebranded as Alpstra Co. And so with that, we're able to help individuals as well as organizations. And our main focus is on new and emerging leaders, people who need those skills that they weren't we're not born with the skills and knowledge of how to be an effective leader. So we help equip them to do that. And the way I got into the space was, in the beginning of my career, I was a teacher and I went to work for a software company and was in the training and development department. And I was quickly promoted to where I was over all of the training and development initiatives and that team. And what happened was at that company, we had what I call a toxic leader or a toxic boss. And I saw how people within the organization were being treated. And people would come to me and they'd close my office door and they'd pour out their heart. And sometimes they would cry. And we would have these conversations and I would do whatever I could to pour into them and help them feel better about going out there and doing their work. But then a Fortune 100 company started recruiting me, and it was McGraw-Hill Education on the higher education side. And it was really easy for me to go work for that company because of the environment that I worked. And when I went to work for McGraw-Hill, I saw the most amazing leader I'd ever worked with in my entire career. In fact, I'd often tell people that he was so good at being a positive, effective leader that Shay, he could be sitting here having this conversation that we're having right now and say 2 or 3 hours from now, or maybe tomorrow, I was reflecting on our conversation. I would think, oh my gosh, I thought he was complimenting me, but actually he was coaching me. So he was such a positive, impactful, inspiring leader that even when he was coaching you, it felt like a compliment. And that got me really curious. And I started thinking, how is it that these two leaders who I just worked with are so completely different? Their leadership styles are so completely different. And because their leadership styles are so different, the effectiveness of the teams that they managed were completely different, right? And I got really curious. I started reading everything I could get my hands on human behavior and psychology and leadership and management and business and neuroscience. And I just read and read and read and read and read and read. In fact, because I worked for McGraw Hill, I had access to all of their textbooks. And so I read probably every single psychology book that they published at that time, as well as several of their leadership books. I also had access to some of the smartest minds in the United States because I visited colleges and universities. And so these subject matter experts, when I would go in and have conversations with them, I would pick their brain and I would ask them questions. And so I was just so curious about the difference in these two leaders that I personally worked with, that I read, that I listened to podcasts, that I started going to trainings myself. I was asking people questions. And at some point in my life, something major happened, something tragic happened, and I was already speaking to people on a professional level at events, conferences and conventions and things like that. And then when this thing happened in my life, I started being asked to speak, like do motivational, inspirational speaking. Well, I had this background of leadership, and then I had this tragedy happen in my life, and everything just kind of married together, right? So I was doing some speaking, and then I was asked to speak on the side to develop leaders and organizations. And it came to a point to where it was like, okay, am I going to keep doing all of this side work? Or and continue working for corporate America, or am I going to step out in faith and just go ahead and create my own company? And that's what I did. And my husband likes to tell people that I'm the first person he knows that when they left a job, he thought there were only two choices: either you got fired or you quit. Right. But he said, my wife is the only one who found the third side of that coin, and she took her employer on as a client. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow, that's an incredible journey, and I think it's a great transition as you're so transparent as I've I just got a chance to meet you. You really are this way. Ladies and gentlemen, the way she is the way she is. It's a good transition to a segment we have here called Today is My January 1st. And I think it's a good time maybe to share one of the setbacks you've had, and you can share it with the audience. But for those folks that are watching who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. In fact, you can go ahead and say those magical words. You wait to say those words. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you. For all the new folks who are tuning in, thanks for allowing us to stream onto your smart device, or maybe we're on your TV right now, by the way. We appreciate you. Today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny the past is, the past no longer equals our future. And so my question for Amy on the other side really is twofold. First, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st. What do you hear? What do you hear? And number two, well, maybe her life's been perfect, but she said something happened. So maybe she'll share a moment where there was a setback in her life. And how was she able to bounce back from it? Take it away, Amy.
All right, so today is my January 1st. When I was young, one of my favorite movies was Anne of Green Gables. You may or may not have heard of it, but there was a quote that was said in that movie, and it was, "Tomorrow is perfect with no mistakes in it yet." And that's the way I like to live my days every single day. Is when I wake up, I think today's fresh, today's perfect. There are no mistakes in it yet. I don't have to live in the past. I can live in this beautiful, perfect, glorious day today. And so if I were to look at today's January 1st, it's kind of that same thing, It's always a fresh start. I get to write my own story every day starting today, and there's no limits to what I can do if I wake up every single day and say it's a new day and I'm going to do everything I can to be the best person I can and have the best day I can have, to do the right things. Now, you also talked about something happening in our lives. And maybe the way I gained this mindset is actually because of that thing that happened. And back in 2016, my husband, not my current husband, I'm remarried, but my husband in 2016 took his life. He took his own life, and he did it right in front of me and had me trapped in a bathroom. And that was a horrible, tragic event that I would not wish on anyone. And I've done tons of inner work, tons of healing around that. Again, speaking back to my faith, I had to lean very heavily on my faith and on my friends and my network, my support system to be able to get through that. But I'll never forget, about a year after it happened, I saw someone in town who I knew. And he asked me, he said, "Amy, how do you do it? How do you get up every day and go to work? And like, how has this not just completely destroyed you?" And I said, I don't think I really had a choice, because here were the two choices I felt like I had. There were two choices. Number one, I could just give up, right? And go climb in that grave with him and live the rest of my life as a dead person. Or I could get up off my knees and say, this will not own me. This is not who I am. This is not who I will be known for. And this is not my story, right? So I made the conscious effort to move forward. And when that happened, I think it put some fire in me. I mean, you go through a spectrum of emotions, obviously. But one of the emotions was anger. I was so mad at him. I was pissed, right? And so there's this fire in me that was fighting so hard about, you know what? Screw you. This is not my story. And that literally lit a fire on me to go out and live my best life, which that kind of sounds cliche, but it truly was my mindset, and to help other people live the life that they deserve to live with intention, to help them understand their worth, to help them reach their goals and their dreams, to help them improve their relationships, take ownership for their lives and their decisions, and really, truly live a life full of joy.
A life full of joy. Well said. Thanks for being so transparent and honest and open with us. As you were saying that, I guess one of the questions that comes up now is the power of resilience. It was in your topic, from fear to fearless, and then about personal resilience. For the persons out there that just like to get your definition of resilience, because it means different things to different people. What does personal resilience mean to you, and how does it apply to someone that's out there watching right now?
Yeah, so it's again not allowing those setbacks to own you, but understanding sometimes when things happen to us, it's really not about us. Sometimes it's about the other person. You know, and if it's something that we did ourselves, it's absolutely taking ownership for the choices we made. But knowing that not everything that happens is about you. So you could have a divorce or a breakup, or let's say you own a company and it goes bankrupt. Well, some people would be absolutely destroyed and distraught over things like that happening. But you understand, back to what we said, today's a fresh day with no mistakes in it yet. If you just live your life with that mindset, then even when bad things happen, they're not going to kill you. They're not going to destroy you. And here's one of my favorite sayings, Shay,
Yeah,
is I have successfully survived every hard day I've ever lived up until now.
I like that. Say that. Say that once again, please.
I have successfully survived every hard day that I've lived up until now.
What a magical way of thinking about the day and getting started. Spot on. As we're coming down the home stretch, I'm curious. One of the questions I like to ask, and we have a few minutes now, and I can ask that question, and that is, what is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? Now, I'll frame it for the audience so they understand. I'm not actually come off the mountain with the 10 Commandments here, okay? And then I know you've had more mentors, and you can probably remember these days, read more books. You talked about that earlier. You could probably recall in 10,000 hours of videos. I mean, I think I do that on the weekend on my thumb, right? Scrolling through things. But if you had to step back and say, Shay, here's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given. What is it, and why is it so near and dear to you?
Well, since we're talking about going from, being fearful to fearless, and because you work with salespeople, I'll give you one that I think fits these topics. And that
Good.
is, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, and you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. And somebody, yeah, think about that for a minute.
Interesting. That's
You
interesting.
can't say, yeah, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So if you're in sales and it's the right person, you feel like you made a mistake, but it's the right person, they're going to look past it and they're going to hear the heart of your message and how you're trying to help them. But if it's the wrong person, it doesn't matter what you say to them, they're not going to accept it. They're not going to hear it anyway. And that piece of advice that I did get from a coach that I had many years ago transformed the way that I interact with people, other professionals, and salespeople, and things like that. But I'm going to give you one more. So you get a lanyard. Remember our word
I
last
like this.
week?
We got a bonus. I love bonuses. I love special bonuses.
Yeah, so here's a lanyard. One of my this one's kind of funny, and I hope this is okay for your show. But my dad is a hoot. He is, and he's just a funny guy. And when I was growing up, I just idolized Princess Diana. If you remember her, Princess Di. And he would tell me, "Hey, Amy, everybody in the world has to wipe their own butt, even Princess Diana." Now think
Mm.
about that for a minute. So when you're talking about you might be intimidated to talk to somebody, whether it's a customer or a prospect, or maybe you're doing what I saw you do recently and get on stage and speak at an event. Some people think that's very scary. But if you remember that every single person out there uses toilet paper too, it's not as scary anymore. I don't know. I think that's funny.
I think it's hilarious. That's spot on, by the way. I love it. This is good. She has humor, ladies and gentlemen. See, y'all thought she was just going to be serious the whole time. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing? You do smile, you do laugh. I've seen you work. I've seen you get serious. I've seen you work hard. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? Like, what gives you the greatest joy and fulfillment?
Yeah, I just love interacting with people. I love seeing an aha moment when somebody gets it, when something snaps inside of them, something connects. I do a lot of corporate training and a lot of keynote speaking and talks and things like that. But when you see the transition in somebody's life, I mean, man, you talk about paycheck. That's if in a perfect world, that's the only paycheck I'd ever have to worry about is getting that, seeing people develop and have those aha moments and grow and heal. That's what it's all about.
What do you do for fun
Yep.
when you're not out saving the world, changing folks, helping them become better leaders, helping them be more resilient, helping them go from fear to fearless? Like, what do you do in your spare time? What does Amy do for fun?
My favorite thing to do is hang out with my 4-year-old granddaughter, Rainy Lynn, because she is a hoot and has the biggest personality you could imagine. So that's my favorite thing is being a grandma. But I like to garden. We have vegetable. I live out here on a lot of acres in the middle of East Texas. We have vegetables, fruit, gardens, flowers, plants. I have chickens. So I love to go outside and play with my chickens. Yeah, so just being a country girl at heart.
I love it, by the way. As we come down the home stretch, a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? I'm not sure if you're even taking on any clients. And number two, if folks want to connect, they're like, hey, I want to stay in this conversation. I want to know more about her company, how they can help us, what they do, where should they go, what website, what do you recommend? So number one, who do you work with? And number two, how can they best connect with your company?
So we work with all different companies, businesses, mostly. My heart is for blue collar workers. So think about manufacturers, distributors, plant workers, things like that. But we work with companies who need help developing their leaders, their leadership team, whether it's board of directors or their entry level managers, mid level managers, things like that. But we do a lot of leadership training, change management training, communication. Think of DISC and the 5 behaviors and all that kind of stuff. The company is called Alpstra, so it's www.alpstra.com, and then you can find me at www.amypechacek.com. It's super hard to spell, but I trust that Shay is going to provide that out there somewhere.
I got you covered on that one. You can best believe that one. Let me say thank you so much for coming on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I know you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So you've given us the most precious resource you have, which is your time. So thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to breaking bread and connecting with you again soon.
You're a rock star, Shay. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to viewers for tuning in, by the way, because again, without you, well, we don't have a show. So we really appreciate you being here. Appreciate you allowing us to stream into your home. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, by the way, whether you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming, or you're on the uprise, like you're on the up, you're up and away. Here's what I believe. I believe today is your January 1st. Because of just that one reason, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. We out. Peace. We'll see you on the other side. Thanks a lot, Amy. We out of here. Bye-bye.